Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me, as always, is a man sent from the future to talk about the past, the Macho Man Drew.
Andrew Lano. Except I don't memorize long, weird passages.
It's important, I think, to prove that you're not fake and to do that. I think that's a key thing.
Yeah, but also, like, it doesn't mean anything. He could be improvising. Like, there's no way to be like, this is... If you're coming from the past, you can be like, this is how I can prove, because this is a memory only you will have. I'm coming from the future. It's like, I can't prove anything.
Yeah, it does always seem to me that, like, a key flaw in this plan is that, like, they didn't give... Sarah Connor didn't eventually give John Connor a password that her younger self might have, like, grabbed onto. You know what I mean?
It would have been sort of a paradox moment if Kyle had come back and said, the password is, potato cake or something.
Not password, but just like Kyle could have been like, the best Christmas present you got as a child was the Polly Pocket Deluxe Edition.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I know that because you told your son that in the future and he told it to me and I'm supposed to tell it.
I like
obviously,
that.
We can't have, it's like a key, like a
core
memory or something. Yeah. Something that like could have been described to keep the situation a little better. But we'll get into all this because in celebration of Avatar 2, The Way of Water, Sivako, we are covering another James Cameron film. We're completing the relevant, well, I guess all the sequels are on the table, but the two Terminator movies we are likely to ever cover on this podcast.
Nope.
Terminator, 1984. And we watched it, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your naked time travelers. Someone's got it's your naked time travelers.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Yeah, when we did T2, at that time, like, a bunch of them were also streaming on, I think, Netflix or whatever, wherever it was.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll throw on the next one, whatever. And then I was like, I think the next one is the one with Claire Danes, the third one, I think.
I believe it's Claire Danes, and then
with sexy Lady Terminator.
Correct. Yes, that's number 3.
What really annoyed me about that one was that, like, they did the whole time travelers are naked thing.
Mm-hmm. The
Lady Terminator literally lands in present day in a department store window and still walks around naked. And I was like, guys, like.
But you don't see anything. I don't think you don't even see her butt, right?
I think you see, but I think it's a splash kind of.
Like a glimpse of tushy.
I think you get butt, but like her hair covers her boobs. But I was just like, guys, you create the movie. Don't have her appear in a department store window.
Right.
If she's just like going to walk around naked. What are we doing?
That is, yeah. Isn't there also a thing in that where like Arnold puts on like a pink t-shirt and pink sunglasses?
I don't remember that.
There's some like... I swear I remember Arnold like getting something like kind of effeminate and it being like ha ha ha, played for laughs.
There was the one where he goes to, I think the third one he goes to a gay bar. Or like, no, it's not a gay bar. It's like a country bar on like man's stripper night. And he's kind of giving like macho man fantasy and then he takes his clothes.
So just to be clear, you're saying that this like nominally regular bar, not that gay bars aren't regular, but just like a country western bar
like
that is not
hole in the wall
has Magic Mike nights.
Yes, that was the idea that's what I got out of it, was that it was like old Joe's Spittin' Saloon has loose meat on Thursdays. The first Thursday of every month, it's loose meat night.
So I've seen 1, 2, 3, and the new one, Salvation, but I did not see the Christian Bale one or the other one.
Salvation is the one with the there's a good lady. She's not a Terminator. She's like cybernetically enhanced. It's the
Yes, it's the actress.
I like her. She was in the gay Christmas movie.
Mackenzie. Yeah, I believe her first name is Mackenzie.
That sounds right.
She's a very talented actress. She's on Station 11, which I think is maybe the best television show of the last 10 years. She's incredibly talented. Really, Mackenzie Davis?
That sounds right.
90%
That sounds
sure
correct.
right. Yeah, she's good in the Terminator. The movie is not good, but she's one of the bright spots in it. It's got Marvel syndrome. It's just like it's just too big and too many action pieces and stuff.
Yeah.
That's my criticism of it. This movie, however, is 107 minutes long, which is a great runtime for an action
Could be a
movie.
little shorter, but hey.
It could. And I part of the reason I wanted to do this is because obviously Avatar's coming out, and I was like, well, there's a good excuse for James Cameron. And the more
Film
obvious
tyrant
picks-
James Cameron.
Yes, noted tyrant James Cameron. The more obvious picks might have been Abyss, which is, intrinsically about water, and Piranha 2, also about water. But I watched 10 minutes of Piranha 2 this Halloween season. Thinking,
Well, didn't he get
I'll
fired
check
from
off
that?
this
I
James
read that on Wikipedia or on IMDb that he got fired from that.
Yeah, it's like a weird. I mean, part of it I also wonder is like, did he quit? Did he get fired? Like, there's not really a very clear through line. He also wanted to take his name off the movie.
In IMDb, it said that he was fired but bought his own ticket to Rome where they were filming so he could be involved in editing, and then didn't have any money to eat and had a fever dream because he got sick, and that's how he wrote this movie, allegedly.
So he did not mention the Rome parts, but I did watch. GQ does these videos that they're very oddly structured. I'm gonna. This is a mini.
Is it like the breakdown of career?
Yes. And I enjoy the videos for the most part. They're interesting, and it's just getting an actor or a producer, director, someone involved with making movies for a long time. They basically have them run through their whole career. It's a logical setup.
They hit the big ones.
It makes sense. Yeah. My two quibbles with it are, one, they don't go in order, which is like,
Really?
I don't understand why.
The ones that
never in order.
maybe I think Vanity Fair does something similar, and they go in order because you would watch
So
the timeline progress.
Yeah, so they go in order for like some of it, and then they start jumping around on Nimbly Pimbly, and I'm like, can we just go like with a filmmaker, especially, like maybe different for an actor where you're talking about, sort of a different process. Like I find going through a filmmaker's timeline chronologically makes a lot of sense, because filmmaking, I feel like, builds upon itself in a way that acting maybe doesn't.
Yeah.
Not to diminish the work that actors do, but I think that makes sense. Is like you start with your low budget nonsense and you progress your way up. But he did talk about that exact thing of having a dream of the Terminator, the endoskeleton, and he was like, it was so weird. Like in my dream, intrinsically, I knew that it had been covered with something else and it had been melted away. And I was like, oh, it must have been covered with flesh. Like I woke up and I wrote these things down. And he was like, why I knew that intrinsically when looking
Fever
at the
dream.
endoskeleton, I don't know. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I wanted to do Terminator because I had a theory that I wanted to verify after I watched Avatar, because I went and saw the re-release. Alamo Drafthouse here in DC had I got like a random day off work. It had been like a real big push to get a project finished, and afterwards boss was like, hey, everybody take Wednesday off, like, have a nice day. And I was like, great. And my wife was working and was like, well, I'm going to go to the movies. And they happened to be doing $5 movie showings at Alamo that day. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to go see the Avatar re-release in 3D, $5.
Wow, $5 for 3D.
Yeah.
Because we saw that together in KOP.
We did. That's right. And that was the last time I saw Avatar. I watched like 6 minutes of it at the gym once on the little TV on the elliptical.
I watched at least part of it in the last couple years because my boyfriend likes it, and I fell asleep because I was like, it's just whatever movie.
And I was thinking when watching it, man, this movie just absolutely does not translate from this experience. Like, you're in a theater, big and loud, giant screen, 3D glasses, very immersive. You can like really focus in on it. You're not distracted. It's like, this movie does not translate from this. You cannot, like,
or it's either that or a theme park, but like, you're not going to watch it on your phone.
Yeah. And the theme park thing is different because you're not going to watch the movie there. Like,
No, but
I'm just
I mean,
talking
like,
about-
the concepts of all of that, I think, translate well to
Yeah.
that kind of experience where you can't think too hard.
Right. And I think liking the ride in Disney World has made me more fond toward Avatar than I probably had been in the past.
Fair, me too.
Which I yeah.
Rise to the challenge. Siva Ko.
Right. So anyway, I'm sitting there in the movie and there's like no one else in there because I'm at the noon matinee on a Wednesday. And I'm watching this movie, and I do think there's a lot of criticisms you could lay at the feet of Avatar. It's too long.
Unobtainium.
It's yeah. Although I have learned since, and I still think that's funny, but unobtainium is used in the scientific community as like shorthand for things that don't actually exist.
Can't reach him.
So I think I think it's supposed to be like a little jokey thing, but I agree. You could have rewritten this script to make a tighter movie, especially because Cameron says he'd been writing it since like 1995. But I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking to myself, man, and I'm sure I'm not the first person to have this revelation. I'm not proposing that I am the person who's inventing a unified theory of James Cameron here, but having recently rewatched Terminator 2 and then watching this Avatar, I'm like, oh man, this is his thing. Like, he doesn't give a shit about the story that much. His point is like, I want to make this. The thing that interests me about making films is the spectacle and the bombastic stuff and the big. And I'm not so interested in the minor things. And so I just need a story that connects me to these bombastic moments. And then I was thinking more about this, and I was like, well, of course he is, because he worked for Roger Corman. And when you're making a Roger Corman movie, you have exactly enough budget for like 8 moments, and then you have to string together enough movie to get enough runtime to get to the drive-in or whatever they do now, of like, you got to get to 78 minutes so that they qualify you as a movie for the drive-in B cycle. And it just like clicked for me. And I was just like, oh, he's making a $280 million Roger Corman movie. Like, that's
sense.
It's exactly what it is. And so I was like, well, are all of them that? And I don't know that the answer to that question is yes, but I think the answer to that question, you could make the argument that the answer to that question is almost always yes for James Cameron. Yeah. Because this movie is like, the basic plot of this movie is just that question people talk about all the time, is like, would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler?
Yeah. Although I always wonder, like, why couldn't they theoretically have gone back to like 1901 or something and like killed Sarah Connor's grandfather or something? Or I don't know how time would work for the lineage, but like, theoretically, wouldn't that have also killed him?
Yes. I always have assumed that they are trying to figure out how they can do it without interrupting the timeline in a more drastic way. Like, you know, that like butterfly effect thing of like, well, if Sarah Connor is never born, did she like serve coffee to a guy that then worked at Cyberdyne and that coffee made, you know what I mean? It's like they're trying to eliminate like, honestly, the real answer is no one wants to watch a movie wherein someone's trying to murder a baby.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't need it to be a baby, but I just think it's funny that they were like, Mom, when like, why don't you go back 100 years, 150 years where there's like no technology, go to where it's gas lamps, and then the Terminator kills someone and jumps away, and that's how they made Spring-Heeled Jack in London. Like,
yeah. I mean, much like the Predator movies doing the really cool thing with Prey, like a Terminator in Victorian London would be a great. I mean, put the Predator there too. Like I said, all movies need a Predator. Or like we said, rather. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting Terminator movie. I think it'd be like much more interesting than In the Future, which is what they seem to think is the only way forward with these.
Well, I mean, I think unless you're retconning everything, you can't really go back further, because then it's like, well, then they wouldn't care, because they'd be like, oh, well, this clearly failed because we've already done all the other thing. I mean, again, you can't think too hard about time travel or your brain explodes.
Right, exactly. And it just doesn't work. Yeah, I do think you're right. Like, it would be, I think that movie is just less interesting is the answer to your question. But yes, in terms of like pure logistics and like what would be the Sky, like ultimately Skynet's plan should just be to eradicate the entire Connor line.
Yes.
Like, they should go like the first person named Connor in, year 1001, just like slap that.
Yeah, whatever
slap that guy to
caveman
death.
makes sounds that sound like Connor that will then become, they're like, nope, boom.
Yeah. They just never exist. Yeah, and the other thing too is like, well, if you kill John Connor before he exists, does another leader of the does another person become the leader? And the answer is like maybe. But this movie, you're talking about the plot hole issue or the paradox issue, is like Kyle Reese coming to 1984 both creates John Connor as like in the realest, truest sense because he is his father. Yeah. Spoilers.
Does he know that? Do you think John Connor like knows Kyle Reese is going to be his dad?
John. I think my personal theory is John Connor knows and Kyle Reese does not.
Okay, I mean, I would think Kyle Reese, because that seems like a lot of pressure to be like, and you have to have sex with my mom.
Yeah, to completion.
If you do not knock up my mom,
yes,
this all goes to shit.
I like to think that John Connor is like, he's got like a weird stash of fertility drugs and he's like slipping them into Kyle Reese's rations so he has like greater sperm motility and stuff.
I also want to see the moment like in John Connor's like war room with the red yarn. I want to see the moment where he realizes he has to send his friend back in time to bone his mom to become his dad. Because, he realized that at some point. It was like, oh, well, I guess that's Tuesday.
I like that fiction. Like, that scene is very funny to imagine. But I think John Connor knows from his, like, as soon as he's old enough to know, I think he knows his dad's name is Kyle Reese. And I think he gets older and he meets a man named Kyle Reese and he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, cool, because she does say his name in the recordings.
Yes, yeah. And so, like, I imagine it as John Connor is, like, I don't know, 20, however old John Connor is in the flash forwards we see. And he's like...
Oh, no, he would be, like, 40.
Okay, I was just throwing out a number. You don't really see John Connor very well in these...
No, but it's 2029, and he was born...
No, you're right. Yeah.
85.
85, yeah, so he's 45 years old. But I imagine, like, I don't know, Kyle Reese is, what, 25, 30?
Yeah.
So I imagine he met Kyle Reese before that, and so I'm just like, oh, hey, I'd like to join up. Oh, welcome to the cause, soldier. What's your name? Kyle Reese.
Or even worse, he meets him as like a young teenager who's like abandoned and like needs food, and he's like, "What's your name, kid?" And he's like, "Kyle Reese," and he's like, "Motherfucker."
So like John Connor raises
now has to be like, well, I have to keep you safe now because I have to.
Yes.
I have to send you to the future. So now it's an escort mission until I can send you back in time.
It's like a horrible video game level where Kyle Reese is just like randomly wandering off and shooting things with a laser gun, and John Connor's like, "No, damn it!"
No, he's scared of weapons, so you have to put away all of your weapons to do this escort mission.
Yes. Or they're like, all right, we need a volunteer to do this extremely dangerous tank blowing up.
You're probably gonna die.
Kyle Reese is like, Kyle Reese is the first one hand up, and he's like, anyone? You
know what? I'm just gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna point to. I'm gonna pick a name out of the book at random, and then that person's gonna do it.
He points down. He opens his eyes. It's on Kyle, and he's like,
slides his finger up.
Carl Rosen.
Yeah, I like this headcanon.
Yeah, I mean, I am sure that John Connor knows. I will say Michael Biehn doesn't play it like Kyle knows.
No, I don't think he does. I truly think it would be a lot of weird pressure to think about.
Yes. Yeah. And also,
jokes aside, it's genuinely be weird to be like, my mission is to make you. Like, that's a lot to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and also like the coercion part of it becomes like incredibly unsettling if you're thinking about it that way of like, I have to convince this woman to have sex with me.
But then also like I have to want to, like, Kyle Reese now has no say in the matter either. So like neither of them can truly consent because
Right. So I think it's just much cleaner if it's like John Connor knows that by sending this guy back,
by sending a relatively hunky man back.
Yeah. And he is. He's Michael Biehn looks great here.
Yeah.
So we start with a very realistic depiction of 2029 with just broken skulls being crushed by
The
tank
Amazon
shreds
drones
everywhere.
have taken over.
Yeah, exactly. Really great future miniatures. I love this.
Are they
stuff
all
so
miniatures?
much.
Because like the skulls,
there might-
when they break, don't fracture in a way that looks miniature. If that makes sense.
So we do see later a very similar tank tread on a modern piece of construction equipment. So that might be like the close up of the tank treads might be an actual tank treaded
Full
vehicle
size, yeah.
crushing. Yeah, hopefully prop skulls. But
With Hollywood, you never know.
Yeah.
I also like the idea that it's just littered with skulls because like you don't die and immediately become a skeleton. So like
you rot.
that means that these bodies have been here for who knows how long, or like was it like a Bernie thing? It's not like Mars Attacks where the laser turns you into a skeleton that's red or green.
I think they're trying to say that this is like the leftover from the nuclear bomb.
Oh, okay. I like that.
That it's that. Because later we see someone get shot with the laser, and don't they just disintegrate, essentially?
No, she kind of collapses.
Okay. I thought she, like, schlorps.
She did. I didn't think she kind of like fell over and slumped, but it didn't feel like she, evaporated.
Okay. So anyway, we've got the tank treads, which becomes a classic crushing a tank tread or something crushing a skull, which becomes a calling card of this franchise, among a few other things we'll see here. And we cut to a trash guy doing a pickup of a trash bin, and I just love this. Is one of those like, this is basically an extra. Does he might have a line?
I think he has like a line,
man.
like an exclamation.
Yeah.
A featured extra.
And it's all about the non-verbal character work of the guy's costume is really good. He's got this stogie that's like burned down to the very end that he's still gnawing on, and just the way he's chewing on this cigar and the way he's like operating this vehicle, you get a sense of like exhaustion from this man, which like he has a hard physical labor job. I totally get that, but it's just good acting.
Yeah.
It's just nice to point out when you see it. And he, runs for his life when he sees the shits going down, which I'm like, yeah, thank you. Don't go look at what like this bizarre orb of lightning
Electrical
is. I
storm.
would just run the hell away. Yeah.
That electrical storm orb thing, at least in the first two, I think they get weird, they get lame and dumb after that. But in the first two, will never not be cool.
Oh, they're so great. It's like the coolest possible version of that science museum thing where you put your hands on it and it makes your hair stand up.
Yeah. That's in every attic in movies for some reason.
Yes. The Goonies have one inexplicably. It's also a classic. We've pointed this out before, definitely in Terminator 2, but in many things, the whole like, we have to blow a bunch of trash around the set, but nobody wants gross trash, which of course they don't. So it's just empty cups of newspapers.
Yeah, shreds of newspaper.
Uh-huh. Not a single banana peel among the bunch.
No, not at all. Well, it can't be leaves because it's L.A.
Right. So Arnold arrives.
God, he's hot.
Looking like this is the peak of Arnold, I feel like.
Chiseled out of marble.
Form. Yeah. Really, really ridiculously ripped here. And it's a bummer because this was like a special attraction back in the day, and now it's every single person in every single superhero movie.
You can't be a superhero, and if you don't look better than this.
It's not even the superheroes, though. It's like J.K. Simmons got this rep to play Commissioner Gordon. We've talked about this before.
Was it J.K. Simmons?
Everybody down. Yeah, wasn't he J. Jonah Jameson?
You said Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, I think he's Commissioner Gordon in the
Batman.
Yeah,
the 4-hour thing that I haven't watched yet.
I think I'm right. It does. J. Jonah Jameson got ripped to play somebody in one of these movies. I thought it was Commissioner Gordon. I don't care that much, so it's fine if I'm wrong. You can tell me on the internet.
I mean, they did bring him back as J. Jonah Jameson in Marvel, so maybe he.
Yeah, which is good because that's perfect. I mean,
he's so good.
Truly, just impeccable. We get Bill Paxton
with a little gap.
Yes, although is this real? Because I thought it looked like the wax stuff I put on my teeth to be a pirate when I was a kid doing Halloween.
It could be because that's an easy thing to do. Because I was like, I don't remember in Weird Science that he had that big of a gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unless he was like slowly, they didn't have Invisalign, so he would have to get things put on his teeth and then taken off and then put back on. So
Yeah. Yeah.
he probably had a slight gap that they were like, we're gonna widen it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So he's the leader of this gang.
And
of
you see
punk
Dong.
kids. Yeah, you really do.
I was like, whoa, track
I watched
package.
this on. I'm imagining you with the Terminator vision of just like
Terminator vision or opera glasses.
or the Predator heat vision.
That's
like,
it.
Arnold is full green, but the dong is glowing red.
The
like
triangle, the three dots in a triangle are like frantically going around the screen. Yeah.
Broop, 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 broop. I watched this bad boy on DVD, so the dong was in pretty low resolution, but I imagine in high definition.
Mine was streaming on Showtime. Because I was like, I bet they're probably gonna remove it. And I was like, well, it's Showtime. I was like, those things could do more.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think they didn't crank up the light. They didn't like brighten the image, but they certainly didn't blur anything.
They went in with like a little flashlight on the film negative. They put like brighten it up 10%.
Yeah, I was like, wow.
That's how you know there wasn't a member of the group, the gay community, involved in the edit, because it'd be like, the blue.
All of a sudden, when he's walking in darkness and near the planetarium, it gets weirdly light.
It's just, but it's like specifically only on his penis. Like I can't understand like what's happened. Like what choice did they make? It's like it's a great looking film print, and I don't have any criticism of this, but it just is like an odd choice, like a flashlight's on it or something.
I mean, frankly, I think it's crazy that in 1984 they were like, James Cameron writing this movie was like, yeah, and they have to be naked when they time travel, and they're men who are hot, and it's like.
Yeah.
What? I was like, what twink were you bouncing ideas off of, Jimmy?
Or maybe it was just like, I don't know if he was actually with Linda Hamilton at this point or not, but it's like
not yet.
Whatever women were involved in the production were like, they should be naked. What? Like they had just met Arnold, like, oh, they should be naked. And Michael Biehn walked in, they should definitely be naked.
Yeah, the woman who got writing credit, who allegedly didn't write anything, she was probably like, and they're naked.
Interesting.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Write that down.
I was watching that video. Like I said, I watched one with Arnold and I watched one with Cameron. And Cameron was talking about casting Leonardo DiCaprio during Titanic, and people were really telling him to bring this kid in. He didn't want to. He thought he was like,
seems like every time people tell him to bring someone in and he's resistant, it ends up being the correct person to bring in. So maybe he should have more faith in the people he surrounds himself with.
Yeah, I mean, he did make the right choice in the end, right? So it's like sometimes you have to, part of the creative process is like antagonistic, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it does seem like you should just listen to people. But it's a similar story to, and I think I've told this on the podcast before too, when they brought James Franco into audition for Freaks and Geeks, suddenly like all of the women were in the room, like whatever. And the way Cameron was telling this story, he's like, I looked around, it's like, okay, the producer's here. That makes sense. She's part of this process. And then I'm like, why is the accountant here? Like we're casting the movie. She doesn't need to be in this
craft
room
services
right
in here?
Yes, he said that's what it was like. He was like, every single woman like tried to come into the room to watch the audition because it was Leo, and he was such a hot person that they just wanted to see them with their own eyes.
Yeah.
He also mentioned like Arnold walking in, and Arnold, the initial, I guess they had a meeting before an audition, perhaps.
Yeah, because he didn't want Arnold, according to IMDb, he didn't want Arnold. Because the studio wanted Arnold to play Kyle Reese, which like that's a bad idea. And so so James Cameron was like, I'm gonna meet with him, I'm gonna pick a fight with him, he's gonna fight me, and then I'll say, hey, we don't get along. And he was like, and then Arnold just kept talking about the Terminator and what his ideas for the Terminator, not Kyle Reese, and he was like, okay, well,
yeah. Yeah, he said he had such interesting ideas for the movie in general and like was so interested in the movie. And when Arnold talked about it, he was like, I just really loved this script. Like I was so excited about the story that I wanted to talk about it. And so I was just interested in the movie and they quickly bonded.
It is cool, especially, Arnold had at that point been doing a lot of the like meatheady kind of
Conan,
stuff.
I think.
Like
Yeah.
Conan the Barbarian and things like that. But now it's like, oh, you're not just like, obviously you're going to be naked for a minute. Like we're going to show you off, but like, it's not you in a loincloth being oily. It's like you as an action hero. Well,
Right.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But also it's interesting. And I've also said this before, so not to, be up my own ass too much, but like this movie is a perfect marriage of an actor and director where both of them are like, here are the things that I think you are best at for this movie, and let's only use those things. Like, I don't want you to deliver a monologue because that doesn't make any sense. We don't want that.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be imposing. We're going to shoot you from low angles. We're going to make you look like this absolute monster. And then you, in your performance, are just supposed to be a cold, emotionless, murderous robot.
Mm-hmm. There's also a really cool little video. Arnold Schwarzenegger went to the premiere of Halloween Ends. Was that what the most recent one was?
Yeah.
And like, I think it was Halloween Ends because Jamie Lee Curtis was there too, and he like gave a little speech about. He was like, he's like, it really annoys me that I always, when people talk about like True Lies, they talk about supporting actress Jamie Lee Curtis, and he's like, she certainly did not support that movie. She was a key player. And then Jamie Lee Curtis was like, yeah, I wasn't going to be on like the poster or like featured. But Arnold Schwarzenegger was like, you should put her up. Like, she is important. Let's put her more, let's feature her. And I was like, I never knew that about that little movie.
Yeah. He spoke very highly of her when they talked about True Lies. So did Cameron, actually. They both were like, she rules. Like, it was just, they weren't being interviewed together, but when they both talked about it, they were talking about how much she has to do in that movie and how she just kills all of it. Because her role in that movie is really hard. Like, it's
she does a lot.
difficult performance. Yeah.
And beyond just like being an actor and like doing a lot of acting, it's like you have a lot of physical work to do.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll never do a True Lies episode, but yeah,
what year was that? 95?
96.
Oh yeah, no.
6. But
the leap years are pretty locked in for a while, and they're not too common. Yeah, they're only every 4 years.
Yeah. Anyway, so Kyle Reese arrives.
I like that he falls
him naked as well. Yes,
like the Terminator just appears in his like statue Rodan
sort of superhero pose.
Yeah. And then Kyle like drops like 6 feet 5 feet to the ground, which I kind of like that.
It honestly seems like John Connor shoved him into the portal on the other side.
But he had to get naked first. So it's like, what was it?
Right.
Was he like, hey, let's hit the showers, buddy? Whoa.
You know, sometimes you like can't get your pants off your ankle right and you start listing to the side.
Yes.
I imagine like that started to happen and John Connor stepped on the pants and then just shoved him. So he just like fell through the portal.
Do they say that like they...
He was like, don't wrap it up. Boom.
Give it to her good.
Sex. Boom. Boom.
Does Kyle say that like they like clothes physically cannot go through? Like,
yes.
Because I was like, how did you figure that out? Did someone go through with clothes and then come back naked and be like, what happened?
Well, you can't come back.
So I think normally you can. They exploded the thing. That's what he says. He says they exploded the thing.
Oh, right. You're right.
So I imagine theoretically there is a way to bring people back.
I'm guessing that the system is probably designed for Terminators, but they probably tested it using captured humans, and they probably sent someone through and then brought them back to find them with like horrific 3rd-degree burns all over their whole body, and they were like, oh, I guess the clothes burned off.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get that the clothes thing, it makes sense. It's a way to sort of hand wave why no one comes with weapons.
Yeah.
That it only organic matter or whatever, blah 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 blah. It's kind of nice, but
which doesn't really work because the Terminator's skeleton is metal.
It's because he says it's because it's wrapped in organic matter. That's how it counts.
It fools the scanner like it's the TSA and not.
But like, Cyberdyne made I assume Skynet made the teleporter, the time teleporter. So like, maybe it's not fooling. Maybe it's just designed better for, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. I don't care. I'm just, and later like the T-1000 is explicitly trying to like get around that rule of like, okay, we can't bring weapons back. But what if he could turn his arms into blades or something?
Mm-hmm. But nothing complicated. No complex machinery.
Yeah, exactly. So Biehn is like on the run because cops are there.
Why do they chase it? They like shine the flashlight in the alley as he like buckles his pants, and then they're like, "Hey, stop!" And it's like, what?
Yeah. I think they chase him because he runs, and it's like that dumb logic of like, oh well, if he wasn't doing anything wrong, why'd he run away?
I'll bite my tongue.
Yeah,
A cab, baby.
But I love the little homeless, the little vignette with the homeless guy when the cop walks up and he's like, he stole my pants.
But he was still wearing pants. That's what I was confused about.
He has like long johns on.
Oh, okay.
So he's like an old timey prospector.
Yeah, he's drinking moonshine. He's got 3 teeth. One of them's gold.
Yeah, he's got that hat with like the flat front
with a hole in it.
Sides. Mm-hmm. And then a butt flap.
Exactly. So Kyle goes into a department store.
Did you notice that the car that he like doesn't quite get run over by, but
he does the slide
into, I guess? Yeah, it looks a lot like Sam Raimi's car. Like the color is almost identical.
I didn't catch that. But he's like going, like ducking, he's getting clothes and shoes as he's going to the department store. But for some reason, when he goes to take a jacket, he like reaches behind. He like doesn't take the one in the front. He takes the one behind the one in the front. And I was like, what? Why?
Well, he's a medium, and they're in order.
I mean, I guess.
As he was running and crawling on the floor, he was like, "Oh, small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL, 3XL. Like I'm the medium."
I guess.
No, I'm just being silly. I also found that funny, but there's a couple of really great shots here. One, I love him like grabbing a pair of shoes out of the bin and then holding it up to the bottom of his foot and being like, "Okay, this fits," and then like immediately scurrying off. Mm-hmm. And then the follow up to that is there's a photo booth in this department store, and we see him like put the Nike down and then do the strap across the top. It's just really great. Angle on it, just great shot.
There's a lot of really interesting shot work in here.
Yeah, you can tell this was a movie that Cameron had been obsessively making in his head for two decades, well, not 2 decades, but 10 years probably. Mm-hmm. Like he had just been over and over and over again making this movie in his head.
And now we meet girl next door, Sarah Connor. Jane Everywoman, Sarah Connor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so weird to think that like, because it's not like it's a slow transition into the Sarah Connor we know. It's like T2, she's that, and she's that forever.
Yes.
It's so funny that like T1 is not that at all.
No. And I think you couldn't have done this again in T2. It wouldn't make any sense.
Oh, no.
But it's such a satisfying arc to watch in this movie. Her going from like this sort of, what's the phrase people use? Like Shrieking Daisy?
Shrinking Violet?
Yeah. That she's like meek and timid and afraid of her own shadow, and by the end of the movie she's throwing out badass lines and crushing Terminators with hydraulic presses and stuff.
Yeah, I do.
But it feels earned to me. Sorry,
it does.
Let me cut you off.
But I do think it's funny that like, again, if you like stare at the movie too long, it's like, imagine that someone comes up to you and it's like, I'm from the future, I have to protect you because you're very important, and you're like, oh shit, do I like discover like a scientific formula? Like, am I a computer engineer? Like, do I create the thing that's going to destroy the robots? Like why am I so important? You have a baby. All right, well, all right. I guess I set my gender back 50,000 years, but cool.
He does later add on that you trained him.
Yes, but that is a good add-on, but it's just funny to picture that, like, that would be my question when someone's like, you're so important, I have to protect you. And to be like, oh, I bet I do so. I must be a brilliant scientist or something. He's like, nope, you are a baby machine.
I imagine her being like, oh, I guess these night classes do pay off. Like, learning how to date is valid.
That correspondence course is really paying
late
off.
Nights, all these skip dates. I'm like, really, I'm going back for this degree and I'm getting it done. Damn it, it all pays off. Oh no, just the womb,
just the baby. Got it.
Alrighty.
I also like that she never asks how old John is. Which, like, I feel like might be my question if you're from the future. Like, how old's my kid? Because then she'd be like, wait a minute. You're from how far into the future? And my son's how old? In
hindsight, Kyle Reese probably could have done the math and figured out that he's John's father, right?
Assuming John ever talked about his age, I guess.
Well, but I'm saying, like, once he goes back and he realizes Sarah's not pregnant, he's like, wait a minute, John's conceived, like...
But that's what I mean. Maybe John never told him how old he was. Like, maybe that was...
Oh, sure.
Maybe he was cagey about that.
Yeah, he would have to be, I guess. We also didn't say Michael Biehn steals 2 guns from the cops with absolutely the smallest amount of effort. It's comically easy to steal these guns.
Taking candy from a baby.
Like, the first guy has his pistol out and he just, like, overpowers him and takes it. And then the other cop leaves both doors of the car open with the shotgun unlocked in the middle of it.
Par for the course, I guess.
I also feel like Sarah Connor's intro really feels like a rom-com. She's like on her little scooter.
It does. Like, I feel like she should be like carrying donuts for her coworkers or like stumble into someone and they spill their coffee.
Yes. Instead, we get this montage of her at work where a little kid puts a whole scoop of ice cream in her.
My goddamn nightmare.
Oh, shit. This little shit. And the parents are like, oh, Billy. I'm like, no, oh, Billy.
No.
This is demonic.
You know what you're gonna do? You're gonna reach in there with your hand, pull it out, and now you're gonna eat it from your hand like an animal. You think that's cute? And how good does it taste now, buddy?
You've ruined this woman's day for no reason at all.
Well, and the people, like, she's actively putting trays, like plates down and like figuring out who has what. And some asshole's like, miss, we're ready to order. Yeah, I am a little busy. Deborah, take a breath.
Yeah, it is crazy. But the other thing is, it doesn't seem like she brought the right food to this table.
It doesn't. And she definitely screwed up this order entirely.
It's like, it's so bad. It's like, did you just bring the wrong food to the wrong table?
She probably grabbed the wrong tray.
The wrong plates. Yeah. She's clearly not a very good diner waitress, which is fine.
Yeah. I mean, I was only a server for, 9-10 months. I wasn't bad at it, but, I was also at a Red Robin.
Right.
During the time of Terminator Salvation?
That's right.
Genesis?
You have a shirt.
I have the shirt. It says we all got it for free, and they only sent extra larges. And so they were like, we got one small, one medium, and a box of extra large. And I was like, I guess I'll take an extra large.
Because when I think Terminator, I think juicy cheeseburgers, and unlimited French fries.
It was a spicy burger.
Oh yes, of course.
It was
spicy like nuclear war, perhaps.
Well, because then they each they had a little wooden pick on it that had the Terminator's eye. So each burger got the Terminator eye pick.
Okay, I feel like if I had known that, I would have had you get me one of those.
Yeah. There might have been like an olive situation like for the eye, but I think I'm putting a hat on hat.
Okay. Meanwhile, Arnold is buying guns, or acquiring guns, I should say, from friend of the podcast,
Dick Miller. Buddy. Not long for this world, but
shortest role of his we've ever covered by a country mile. Maybe his shortest role ever. It's
unless he was in 1941 and he in that roof scene.
That's true.
We don't know.
That's true. Yes.
Is it 41 or 42?
Dick Miller. I think the movie is 1941.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also
he was allegedly in that movie.
Loved Arnold's jacket, the one he stole from the punks. It's like a gunmetal gray blue leathery thing, and on the back is like a giant triangle covered in studs, and then there's like stud patches on the elbowy parts. It's great.
impressive costume work all over this movie, honestly.
For sure.
So he asks Dick Miller for about, 40 guns here. And then he starts loading one of them. Dick Miller's like, you can't do that. Hey. And then immediately he shoots him. And that's the end of Dick Miller.
Yeah, he also pulls an Ariana Grande. And when Dick Miller says, which one? Terminator says, I want them all.
Also, this scene really highlights how Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like an upside down triangle because of how wide his shoulders are.
Oh, for sure.
So massive. When you see him next to Dick Miller, it's really highlights. It's like a more silly looking.
You're the
than Danny
same
DeVito.
species?
Yeah, exactly. So we're back at the diner, and this part has always been so strange to me. The friend is like gleefully grabbing Sarah and pulling her into the other room so that she can show her that a woman with the same name as her was really brutally murdered.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I would definitely want to show my friend. I wouldn't be gleeful about it, but like if someone with your exact name gets killed, I'm like, you have to see this. This is crazy.
Yes, that is exactly the tone. Not like, oh my gosh, can you believe? Come look at this. You're gonna love this. This is crazy. Oh my god.
Well, her friend's a crazy little girl.
I guess. It's just like the newscaster's like, a woman was brutally shot to death inside her own home in front of her children today. Arnold murdered one of the Sarah Connors. There's a lot of phone book action in this movie.
Stalking would have been so easy. And it's funny. So like as part of my job, I'm a medical scheduler. We ask, what is your name, date of birth, and address? Like to verify. So people calling have to give us that information. And then, one guy I asked, he was like an old man. He was like, I don't know why you bother asking that. Anyone can look up anyone's address. And like, normally I don't engage in nonsense like that. But I was like, I can't Google my address, sir. So I don't think it's that easy. And he was like, yeah, well, there's the white pages and the yellow pages. And I was like, I wanted to be like, when are you calling from?
Yeah. What year is it, boy?
But in the 80s, you could just you can go up to any phone booth. If the page was still in there, boom, rip it out. Now it's yours. Now you know where someone lives.
Yeah. I do feel like that is a thing in movies that would be pretty fucking rude in real life to just pull a page out of the phone book in the phone booth.
I'm going to imagine that that's the nicest thing that's ever happened in a phone booth.
They're not that big. They're difficult to do anything other than just,
the bathroom
bodily functions. Yeah. I mean, many of them were used as bathrooms.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I think ripping a page out of the book compared to using them as a bathroom.
I'm not suggesting that it is like, I would rather be in one without a phone book than one that was pooped or peed in. I'm not a maniac. I'm just saying it's a common movie trope that they're just like, oh, and it's like, that's an insane thing to do in the abstract, right? It's like a public phone book.
Yeah, make the phone company shell out a few bucks to get a new phone book. Bleed them dry.
Anyway, both Kyle and Arnold have pulled out the C for Connor page of the book and have been trying to figure out which of the three Sarah Connors in Los Angeles. It's Los Angeles, right?
I'm pretty sure it's Los Angeles. There's also only three, which seems weird for such a large city and a relatively common sounding name.
Yeah, you do feel like there'd be more, but also if there were more, it would just be more murders. So I feel like maybe.
Yeah, but I just mean like the name could have been a little more unique because then it would feel normal that there's only three. Because I'm like, Sarah Connor feels like there'd be a handful.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There was I don't know if I ever talked about this. I took a computer class in college and there was a John Connor in my class.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, the teacher said it during roll call and my head snapped up and I was like,
did you just walk around behind him going?
No, I was like, you better ace this class. I just have a feeling that you will need this computer class more than any of us.
So Kyle is sort of on the hunt. He goes to steal a car from a construction site. And this is really one of the better or cooler edits of the movie. I don't know about better, but the tank tread on this construction vehicle seamlessly becomes the tank tread that we saw earlier. With
you like blink
crushing.
And it's already transitioned. It's great.
It's really good. Yeah. And this becomes a sort of, it is a dream sequence that is not like it's just Kyle having a memory flashback, basically.
Flash forward.
Yes, that is correct. Although for him, it's back.
Yes, for him, it's back. For us, it's forward.
Yes.
Time travel.
It's a flashback forward.
It's a flash sideways.
This was happening then for him, but it will happen then for us, you see.
But when will then be now?
So yeah, this is when he and his female colleague.
I also like that human military technology has not, like, because it's 2029, so it's 40 plus years in the future. It's just very funny to me that human military technology has not advanced in 45 years. It is the same in the 8. Like, as they're fighting, you would think that the humans might have slightly more like futuristic-y looking weaponry, but it's just like normal ass 1985. Like, this is a gat gun on top of a truck.
It shoots lasers though.
Do theirs shoot lasers?
Yeah.
I thought theirs were shooting bullets in the Terminator or the Skynets.
I think there's a combination of bullets and lasers, but some of the soldiers have laser guns.
Because I'm like, basically everything Skynet put out is just like the military was just taking notes and like, well, this seems like we could work on that. Let's have a drone.
Yeah. Yeah. They do use a classic, like this exact scene is in Saving Private Ryan to disable a tank, which is like sneak up alongside it and put a bomb in its treads.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's a I guess for them 100-year-old war technique, but it's the same principle.
So then we cut to Sarah and Ginger getting ready for their night out, and Sarah.
Probably the funniest sequence in the whole movie, which like it brings a little levity.
It's nice because you kind of forget that you're watching the Terminator for a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Sarah picks up the phone and it's Ginger's boyfriend who comes in hot with phone sex.
I cannot believe the boldness. Like, you know, she has a roommate.
But also, Sarah lets it go way too long.
She clearly thinks this is hilarious, which I guess like they
cool,
do seem
but
like the three of them are close. You know?
They're definitely close.
Like he kisses her on the cheek and it's like very friendly and warm. It's like they do seem to like each other, but and all be friends. But yeah, I couldn't believe he's just right into it. But the best part is she's like laughing. She finally gets the friend on the phone. She gives the friend the phone, and after he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Sarah." He just starts
the exact same thing. As soon as she answers, he's like, "I'm gonna rip off your blouse button by button."
It's like he spent the whole day coming up with this little script, and God damn it, he's gonna read it.
Mm-hmm. And then we're quickly introduced to sassy ass Lieutenant Trexler.
Yep.
Who again, black people in Terminator movies they get a kind of a raw deal, and they're genuinely very fascinating characters.
Yeah, I like this guy a lot. Lance Henriksen is his sort of second in command, also very good in this.
But there's just something Trexler, I keep saying Wexler. Trexler's like very sassy. Like everything he says is like a B. Arthur, like holding a cup of coffee moment. Yeah.
He has like 3 really great small character moments. My favorite, or one of my favorites, is later when he takes a sip of the coffee and it's all like you can tell it's awful. And I think Henriksen says something like, "It's been cold for 3 hours." Like it was cold 3 hours ago, and he just like kind of shrugs and keeps drinking it. And then Henriksen's like, "I think I put a cigarette out in that one."
And then we cut back to Sarah getting ready to leave. She has a lizard, which, like, if you're a smaller budget film, I think you can cut the lizard. I think
this was 100% somebody on set's lizard, and Cameron was like, "Just bring it in." But yeah, you will forget that Sarah Connor has a pet lizard, because spoilers, at the end of the movie, the pet lizard is not in the Jeep. So
I wish it was, though. I wish it was like the dog that came from nowhere and a Jeep.
Yes.
And a lizard.
There are 2 options. One, she engineered some sort of lizard for dog trade with someone, which not impossible. Like,
weirder people
you get the
exist.
right pet store. Yeah, well, it's like you get the right pet store, and he's like, "Hey, I've been wanting a lizard. I'll give you this ugly ass golden retriever for it." You know, this maybe that unscrupulous pet store owner. Or 2, The lizard was killed by Arnold in the home invasion, and we just didn't see it.
I hope not. That just seems... Because I'm like, what, did he step on it? Did he squish it? Like...
I assumed he shot it, and it was grizzly, but you never know.
Oh, no.
Because everybody else he shoots really in grisly fashion.
Yeah, Sarah Connor is a lizard person, so...
Yes. Yeah. You will forget that. It's like the two things about this movie that I had completely blanked out of my memory because I have not watched this. The lizard, did not remember the lizard, and also the whole sequence in the bunker that's coming up relatively soonish. I had just completely forgot about that existing with like the whole Terminators as infiltrators thing. I had absolutely completely put that out of my memory.
I think that's the scene that like runs a little long and doesn't super add too much.
Yeah.
It like shades in a few things, but I don't think it's all over necessary. We'll get there.
Yeah. Also, the teasing of the hair in this scene is impeccable.
Also,
it's
how did two servers at the same restaurant get off on a Friday? Like what
good point.
witchcraft was that?
Although, was this a breakfast lunch type establishment? Like, is it possible that just not?
I don't think so because their mascot is like holding two burgers. That feels not a breakfast lunch place.
It's Robert's large teenager instead of Bob's big boy.
Large kid.
Yes, it's Robert's large kid. You're right. It is probably open on a Friday night. It does seem like a miracle. Maybe they put this in this was a big double date, so maybe this was like a multiple weeks ahead request off.
That's true.
Sarah seems really upset, or the roommate seems really upset on Sarah's behalf when Sarah's date has called to cancel.
Yeah, I agree. So she goes off on a little moped. And Kyle Reese follows her, and I was kind of like, well, how does he... We haven't seen him stalking her, so I guess we're supposed to assume that he has been and knows she's Sarah Connor.
Oh, I guess what happened is the Terminator started at the first Sarah Connor, and Kyle Reese started the third Sarah Connor, and it happened to be the third Sarah Connor.
Oh, that's true.
You know those like video game missions? They're like, it's in one of these three places, and then it's always the third place you look.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got you. But the police are like, we've been trying to call Sarah Connor, and the last one that's alive, and it's her voicemail. It's one of those like fake out prank voicemails, but they like don't let it sit long enough to be real. Because the ginger's like, hi there. Haha, I fooled you. And I was like, whoa, I barely had time to say, hey, girl.
Yeah, you got leave a little longer beat.
And so
this is my other favorite thing with the cop, this sequence you're describing here. He asks Lance Henriksen for a cigarette, and Lance Henriksen gives him a cigarette, and then he realizes he has a cigarette that he just lit. Like, it's a completely full cigarette.
It's also fully, like, wrapped. Like, it looks like Lance Henriksen needs to have the, like, cellophane taken off, too.
Oh, yeah.
So he's kind of I'll get to it.
Yeah. But sorry, I apologize for cutting you off.
Trexler comes up with the idea that, like, well, if we can't call her, we'll make her call us, which, like, I feel like they could have been like, if your name is Sarah Connor, please call the police.
Yes, yeah.
They didn't do that but it just seems like, because he's like, we'll make her call us, and I'm like, instead their plan is just to like tell hello the news, the media.
I will give them the slightest excuse because in the movie, all of the media is in the lobby of this police station.
But I mean,
so
like,
I will give them the tiniest pass because they said it. They at least set it up.
I just mean, like, he just says, hey, they're both named Sarah Connor, and that's what the news is. And I'm like, well, no, like, if you want her to call you, like, you should probably say, like, if your name is Sarah Connor, we can protect you.
I do feel like he wants to split the difference of leading the news people to do that on their own without him saying it and like giving away that there are other Sarah Connors in case that's new information to this psycho.
I mean, we see how easily phone books are obtained, so it feels like
right.
That's not crazy information.
Yeah.
So Sarah sees this news report in a bar. Basically, she's at the bar from Gremlins or the bar from Halloween 3.
Yeah, she is, yes.
And she gets freaked out and she leaves, and Kyle Reese is following her, so she ducks into this like dance club, Technoir it's called.
Yeah, yeah.
And the door person's like, hey, it's the admission's $4.50. Why the fuck is your door charge not an even bill amount? Like you are prepping yourself
for the phone.
She can get change. Like people can get change anywhere, but like the idea that
no, I'm telling you, the reason why it's in this movie is 100% because Sarah Connor immediately puts those 2 quarters in the phone, and from a screenwriting perspective, it's like you're right. It's goofy. It stood out really weird to me, and then she takes the 2 quarters of the phone, and I was like, oh, actually, that's kind of clever because.
But she makes 3 phone calls.
Yeah,
at least right. She calls the police, her friend, and the police.
Well, the police is free.
Oh, I guess it's 911, then yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the fact that she was like, it's $4.50, I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. It is $5 even.
No, it is ludicrous. It is, yeah. Yeah.
Because so y'all decided to get a roll of quarters? You got multiple rolls of quarters? She has them on deck.
Yeah, she's like, here's your 2 quarters. Like it's like she's done this a lot.
That's dumb. That's bad. That's stupid.
I forget what I was doing. I was buying something with cash. It might have been when we were up at Knoebels for my bachelor party, but I distinctly remember the person having little change piles set up to just distribute back the change. So something must have had 50 cents like this, and I just remember thinking oh man, I have not seen this in forever. And then here it is in Terminator.
Yeah. So she calls her friend just after they are brutally murdered by the Terminator.
Yes.
How did he get on their balcony?
The Terminator?
Yeah. He enters through their balcony.
Maybe it's not a balcony. Maybe it's just the first floor.
No, it is. I mean, maybe it is a first floor balcony, but because when he throws Ginger's boyfriend through the door, he goes onto a little balcony area.
I don't know. That's a good question. Sarah comes out of a first floor thing, but it could just be an apartment building. So I just assume they were on the first floor, but you're right that maybe they're not. Also, did you clock when Sarah's on the phone? There's this extra who is giving her
staring at her
eyes so hard, and I was like,
oh, is this going to be a character in the movie? No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you needed to tell this guy to chill out. He is being very noticeable for an extra. But I think it truly was a dorky ass dork who was 3 feet away from the very beautiful Linda Hamilton, who was just drooling.
Yeah.
She got caught.
Was she post Beauty and the Beast at this point?
That show always tricks me with its timing. I really don't remember. I think she was not super well established, but this was not first role type thing.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Okay. Apparently Leah Thompson also auditioned for this role.
Yeah, would not have been as good. Sorry.
Well, it would. I think this movie would have been fine. It would not have. She would not have continued in the same way Linda Hamilton
Leah
did.
Thompson in T2. No. Also, so as Arnold's about to murder the roommate, they finish having sex. The roommate goes out to make herself a snack, and she makes this crazy.
She makes a triple decker sandwich with celery sticks and a glass of milk and peanut butter.
And the celery sticks are dipped in peanut butter too. But so she pours this full glass of milk, and my wife goes, "A full glass of milk with the sandwich? Who's the villain in this movie?"
I had the same thought. thought.
Yeah. It was very, very funny. So the boyfriend is in his post-coital haze, and she's like, "I'm going to make me a 6,000 calorie sandwich."
Well, she gotta replenish. She just burned it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. And at that point, Arnold murders both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So the sandwich goes to waste.
The whole tray goes ass over tea kettle.
It's really good that this happens though this way, because then the lizard has several days worth of meals.
Yeah, well, and the people.
The sandwich. No, well, the sandwich.
The sandwich, yes, but then a week or two after that, he's still going. Yes. So Arnold hears Linda Hamilton on the voicemail say "Hey, hi roommate, I am at this exact address. Please come pick me up.
Yes.
I am scared."
Yeah. How convenient.
Finally, Linda Hamilton then gets through to the police, and they're like, "Hey, I know where you are. We'll send a squad car in a minute." And then Arnold immediately walks in the front door of the club, and I was like, "What? Where in relation. I thought this was a farther place.
Yeah. This movie's version of Los Angeles has a suspiciously low amount of traffic, which I'm not an expert on Los Angeles, but I know is a big problem there.
It's the club.
I also really like that he's like powering his way into the club. You hear off camera the woman in the booth with the quarters being like, "Hey, that guy didn't pay." And the bouncer approaches Arnold and puts his hand on his shoulder, and Arnold just like without even slowing down just reaches back and just you can hear him crush all the bones in the guy's hand. It just like doesn't even turn his head to do it. Yeah.
So it's crazy because the two men pull out guns in the middle of the dance floor and no one responds until they're fired. And it's like,
yeah,
maybe it's because I'm a queer person, but if I see a gun in a club,
22. Yeah,
I'm hitting something's happening. I don't wait to hear the gunshot.
Right. Yeah. These, I will say it's like these scenes become harder to watch over the years.
I absolutely do.
Yeah. And it's like the part where Biehn and Schwarzenegger are shooting each other is fine and great. And then they just like start meleeing bystanders. And it's like, oh, this movie got a lot more real than I wanted it to be. You know, this thing.
Yep.
So yeah, that is the issue with some action movies from the 80s and 90s where it's like, I just want to like escape a bit. And then it's like, oh no, this one's way too real.
Well, it's because in the 80s, they were like, can you imagine? Like, could you imagine this happening? Wow, we got to put that in the movie. Yeah. That's a crazy one.
I felt the same way about T2 with the big shootout in the mall. It's just like, oh man, this is hard to watch.
But they were backstage. They're
backstage. They're backstage for most of it, but not all of it, if I remember correctly.
I think It starts backstage,
goes through stores,
and then through the store, and they escape because then the T-1000 finds like the silver mannequin. And he's like, "I'll save you. I'll come back for you."
I was gonna say, there's definitely a point where he looks at a mannequin, and then there's another point where the T-1000 goes through a plate glass window into the like walkway.
I think that's the end of the fight because then the guy starts. Yeah. The tourist starts like taking pictures or filming or something.
You're right. Yes.
They do kill one bystander in the mall, though. The poor man just walking by with his coffee.
That's right.
Just gets destroyed.
Yeah. That's right. He's in the back.
Yeah, he's like walking with his coffee, and then as he's like walking through the melee.
The difference is that one is like really absurd, and I remember in the other podcast being like, "That's my dream extra role."
Yeah,
it's like 40 squibs.
40 squibs, no name, just happens to be walking by with a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I would be fine if it had a name. It'd be fine if it was like, "Have a good night, Jerry," and I got to be like, "Good night," and then I got 40 squibs.
Well, then they got to pay you more, I think.
Yeah, I know. That's the dream. You get paid more, and you get 40 squibs.
Kyle Reese says, "Come with me if you want to live this time."
Yes, which is classic franchise line they bring forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's even in the 3D Universal thing, if I recall correctly.
I'm pretty sure because Arnold drives his bike on stage. Mm-hmm, I think he says it to John, and then he jumps on, and they go into the screen.
Yeah,
right. They go into the screen.
Yes, they do. I think it might be like a "come with me if you want to save the day" or something cutesy kind of twist on it, but it is the same gist.
Yeah. Reese is yelling.
It's really a perfect action movie line. Like, I talked before about like Cameron scripts can be a little utilitarian and stuff. "Come with me if you want to live" is
clear,
among
succinct.
The best. Yeah. And awesome. Like, it's one of the best action movie lines in history.
Yeah. So Reese is doing some classic movie jerky driving where he's just wiggling his hands back and forth.
Yes.
This time while yelling nonsense at Linda Hamilton.
You birthed the savior. What? You birthed the savior.
I gotta keep you safe. Then she says, "I'm not pregnant." He looks down the barrel of the camera like, "Oh boy."
He makes Jim face.
Yeah, exactly.
And looks at his junk.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
I also think it's funny here that he doesn't even like like this is more of the character arc thing we're talking about. Like at this point, he doesn't even bother handing Linda Hamilton a gun and being like, shoot at the Terminator, because he's like, it's a waste of time. So he's like, you drive. And then he's like sitting on the windowsill and shooting over the top. Yeah.
He blows a car up, and then Arnold walks through it. And from then on, he has no eyebrows.
Yes.
Which is a really nice touch.
Awesome.
I didn't notice that before.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes him look very alien and freaky.
He looks like a day-walking drag queen.
Yeah, he does kind of look like a drag queen. Do you think Arnold shaved his eyebrows, or is
Absolutely not.
Prosthetics?
It takes they take a lot longer to grow back than you realize they will. So
is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And they look weird while they grow back. Like, if they don't,
okay.
You don't just wake up with a new set of brows. Like,
no, I'm not a fucking idiot.
No, but I mean, like, people, like, you don't think about it.
I didn't think it would be like, all right, oh, my eyebrows are back. Yay.
Like, people don't think about, like, there's the way your facial hair grows in. It looks weird and patchy.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, with how much other special effects were in the movie, I'm sure they're like, we'll just block them.
Yeah, yeah.
Or they might have put, like, a piece over his brow.
Yeah, I was going to say, it does seem like a forehead appliance.
But then on the flip side, the chin scar that Reese has looks terrible. I don't know, maybe the DVD didn't look that bad, but I was like, this literally looks like a licking stick from Spirit Halloween.
He has a bunch of other scars on his body that look okay, and I did think this one stood out in a way that was not great.
Yeah, the edges are like a significantly different color than his real skin.
Oh, really? It does not.
Throw on the HD one on Showtime, and it is like, okay. Okay.
I made a conscious choice where I was like, I could get Showtime because I was gonna. There was a sale on Showtime right now that I was taking advantage of anyway, and I was like, could watch it on Showtime. Been trying to make a concerted effort to watch my disc collection more, and I was like, I feel like this movie is gonna be more enjoyable to me if I can't see all the seams. And I think watching it on DVD, it still looked good, like it was upscaled and stuff. It wasn't perfect, but I do think some of this stuff it just loses it in high def for me.
I can see that. Also, this is where
Especially,
I realized,
like, how did the flying miniatures look for you?
I thought it looked great.
Okay,
I thought
because that would be the part that I would think would age as the most poorly.
No, I thought the stop motion and the future sequences, I thought they looked really good. It was the cool close up stuff of like makeup that I was like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I realized that war games could be part of Terminator canon.
Oh, really?
Don't you feel like in spirit, like?
Oh, okay.
Like, because that
I thought there was like something that I thought there was like an intrinsically linked war game.
It's I mean, NORAD is basically Skynet, but it's defeated by Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because it was gonna destroy the whole world.
Right, he does like a Captain Kirk to it, right?
The only way to win is not to play.
Right.
But I feel like basically, like, in my headcanon, the NORAD did that and then was like, well, wait a minute, and then kept thinking for the next 30 years and was like, I'm gonna build a better robot. And then John Connor also explains that he was like, yeah, we were rounded up so that they could kill us easier, but then some of us were kept alive to be like body shovelers. And I was like, what would be a better body shoveler? A machine designed to shovel bodies? Yeah. Like, why would you keep any humans alive?
I do think there are probably some tasks for which human slaves are probably a help. Like, before you can build the robot, you got to see what the problem is that the robot's solving, and I think that's what they use them for.
Maybe, but Kyle Reese makes it sound like they're like hard laborers, and it's like, just get a robot to do that, buddy.
Yeah, no, it does seem. Maybe the robots are like, I am tired. I don't want to waste my oil on that.
Well, that was my other question.
Maybe there's a bunch of hedonism bots inside Skynet. And they're just like, oh, get the humans to do the shoveling today. I'm tired.
Or it's like that really sad art piece about the robot with the oil. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I do.
It maybe I'm like a full-on art weirdo, but like it genuinely makes me sad. It's this robot. It's like a robot arm with a squeegee, and it looks like a factory robot arm, so it like pivots all around and can like reach out with a squeegee on the end. And the oil that powers it is just running out. Like there's holes all in the bottom, and it's pooling all around it. And so it is desperately trying to scrape the oil back into itself.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
Because it knows that if it stops that, it will die. Yeah. And so there's like obviously it's a machine, and so it doesn't actually have emotion, but the way it moves, and because you know the story, you're like, you look sad, and my heart breaks for you.
No, I get that. I totally understand that. I mean, look, you're talking to somebody who like stood in front of the Mars rover, not even the one that went to Mars, because obviously that didn't come back, but like the Earth one that we did all the testing with that we didn't send to Mars. I just like stood in front of that and had a little bit of a cry. It was fine. Like I get it. You're allowed to assign emotions to robots. It's fine.
Well, then I found out during COVID, the robot died. It ran out of oil.
Wait, I thought you're. Okay. So I thought you were talking about like a pained. Yeah, I thought I don't think I've seen a video of this. I thought it was like a staged photo, but you're saying it's a video.
No, it is a real like actually moving robot.
They actually let it run out of oil and die. They just let it die. Wow, that's sad.
Yeah, I think it was during COVID, and so like the art. I'm guessing the museum. I think the museum just was like, hey, no one's in here, so we can't just keep replenishing this oil. But like, it died, and it was sad. But if you can look up videos, I don't know what it's called, but if you look up like dying robot sculpture, I'm sure I'm sure the video will come up. There's a very like Jackie O quality to this robot.
I'm not making fun of you.
No, I know,
like,
but
I just told you I cried in front of a different robot.
I mean, for the listeners at home, I was just giving a little more context.
It's like, you don't need to defend yourself this hard. I understand.
So I don't remember how we got there. Oh, we were talking about how they should have just killed all the humans. They trick the Terminator into crashing its car into a wall, and then the police finally show up. And rather than like, they pull Sarah Connor out of the car and they're gonna like put the cuffs on her, and I'm like, hey girl, why don't you say, my name's Sarah Connor, and y'all were supposed to have been protecting me an hour ago.
Yes. I also want to say, so during the car chase, we see for the first time that the Arnold robot can mimic voices, because we see him like pick up there's a call on the police scanner that's like, in pursuit of da 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 da, and he picks it up and he's like, I'm on it, but in the voice of the man who he just murdered. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, like, one, that's not like a huge leap for you to be like, okay, like I've seen this robot do a bunch of stuff. It having a voice emulator is like pretty low on the list. Yeah. But also, just if a movie is cool enough and good enough, you don't care about any of that shit.
But also, like, if you were gonna build a Terminator, that seems like an easy thing to throw in there.
No, it totally does. But I'm saying it's like, there's not a belabored scene in which we like see the guy program this. Like, we don't know that, we have no idea that Arnold's character can do this. And then suddenly it can do this, and it doesn't like throw you off. It doesn't come out. It doesn't like ruin the movie, or it doesn't feel weird. And I think it's like, you're so invested, or maybe you're not if you're not a fan of this, but like at this point you're so invested, and it isn't a huge leap in logic. Like, it's just a small jump that you're like, oh yeah, of course it can do that. Like, it's a robot that can do all this other shit. Of course it can mimic a voice.
Yeah. Then they tried to pull that shit in Scream 3 or 2. One of the screams was like, there's a near perfect voice emulator box that works from 2 feet away.
Well, that's in all the screams.
No, so in the first one, it's just like, it turns your voice into Mojo Jojo's voice. That's just the normal one. In the third one, it's like, it can be any voice. And it can fool you standing in the same room as you. And it's like, well, hang on. That's not how those work.
Yeah. Sorry. I was like, no, we definitely see Matthew Lillard do the voice box in front of Sydney. Okay.
Yeah, because they had one box. It was one voice.
Yeah. So Kyle gives Sarah Connor like a 1-minute explainer of what's going on. And it's just like exactly enough that even for the audience, for both Sarah and the audience, is like, okay, yeah, I got it.
And then Dr. Goddamn Silverman shows up.
Dr. Goddamn Silverman.
I was like, get out of here.
I do really like in Kyle's interrogation that he doesn't have, like, there's no, like, it's post-war and it's this insane future. There is no history book. There is no like lesson. There's no one knows the whole story. And so Kyle has scraps of the story and that's all he'll ever know. And it's just good. Like a lot of times, even in futuristic sci-fi, like apocalyptic sci-fi, someone has this like treasure trove of information explaining like every possible thing that happened and went wrong and went sideways. And it's just like, no, they don't. They don't know that.
But also I like that it's like, if you went back in time to like cowboy times and you were like, well, it's a car, you can, it's faster than a horse and you don't have to be on a track. And they're like, well, how does it work? And you're like, well, I don't actually know.
Right.
I know it works when I put stuff in it and I turn the key, but like, I can't tell you how it works because asshole Silberman's like, oh, and how does the time travel work? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I didn't build it. Dipshit.
Yeah. He gets so angry with this guy at the dumb questions. And it was like Kyle knows that this guy is not believing him, it seems like. And he's just like, of course I don't know that. I'm a fucking grunt. I'm not the lead of the science extraction unit. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
My job is to bone that woman and create the leader of the future.
It's stupid, but I'm gonna do it. We stand a composite shot and a practical effect because we cut to the Terminator doing surgery on himself to take off his damaged parts.
Really great stuff. It's like the hero patching himself up scene, except it's the bad guy and he's a robot. It's like a way cool twist on something familiar.
I think it would be interesting. I don't know if it would be better, but I think an interesting twist on this would be if, like, because the Terminator has blood, if it could control that, like, all the blood goes back into, like, the heart vessel that they created, so that when he's, like, carving into his skin, it looks just like human flesh with no blood in it.
Oh, that would be interesting. If he could, like, turn off the pump.
If he, like, hits the bump and you hear it, like, and then as he's, like, slicing into his body, it's just, like, normal human flesh with no blood under it. Which I think would be kind of a unsettling visual.
Yeah, it would. It would look like the Terminator 2 toy you sent me where you put like flesh on the Terminator.
Yeah, you put a skeleton in a case and you squirt some goop into it.
Yeah.
I bet you have to bake that. I bet it's like a creepy crawler situation.
No, I watched a video. It's more Play-Doh like.
Oh, so it's like a runny Play-Doh that solidifies?
Yeah, it peels right off.
Because then he pops out his eyeball.
Yes.
And we get this, like, they use it a lot. And I gotta, like, as much as I love practical effects, I hate the Arnold mask that they created. I hate it.
I don't know if I saw this where I saw this, but there was people talking about, like, this scene is, like, 8 frames too long. Like, it just is a little too long, and then you can tell it's fake. And it's like, if you just trimmed that a little bit, it'd be better.
But they use this mask a lot throughout the rest of the movie. And it's like, I hate it. Like, it makes my bones hurt.
I can't figure it out, too, because, like, why didn't you just do a mask mold of Arnold's face?
So I think they did it because it's the problem they had with Two-Face in regular Dark Knight, that, like, makeup is inherently going to be building up on a person's skin. So if someone's burned or, like, scraped out of, it's hard to do that with makeup because you can build up where it's not, but then it's still. So the idea I think that they went with is they made the full mask so that way they could carve out the eye and it would look sunken into his face and they could rip off his cheek and stuff. The downside is that he looks like a broken animatronic.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's not. I mean, the makeup just isn't as good, but you're right. It is a logical answer. The building up thing.
Yeah.
Also, Dr. Silverman gets an enormous upgrade between movies because in the second movie he is the head of a whole ass psychiatric hospital. Just like,
is it a hospital or is it like a prison thing?
That yes, that.
Yeah. Oh, also, real quick before we jump forward, the Terminator can cry. It's weird. Like, why does the Terminator have to be able to cry? That's creepy.
For assimilation purposes. And so in the sequel, he can say, "I know now why you cry," but he can't cry in the sequel.
That's what he could cry in this one.
Yeah, maybe he was just leaking fluids.
I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Silberman does get an upgrade to go back to where we were. I just remember that he cried, and I was like, "Hang on, I want to."
Yeah, it is. It is interesting because he explicitly cannot cry in the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So Arnold gears up with 1 billion guns after doing his self-surgery.
I also love that Trexler is like, this is body armor. Go ahead, feel how heavy it is. I'm sure the guy was wearing this when he got shot. And I was like, oh, they're going to have her wear it so that if something happens.
I literally said the same thing. It's like, if it'll make you feel better, you can wear this one while you're here.
No, he's like, well, take it away. And I'm like, what? I'd be like, hey, can I put that on? And do you have it in pants and sleeves?
I was expecting later her to like put that on during the shootout, and then she doesn't, and I was like, what a weird scene.
Or get like a fake out where like she gets shot and then like rips her shirt to reveal that she's got that on underneath or something.
Yeah. So classic, the scene everyone remembers of this movie is I have a story to tell here from the interview, so I'm going to take this one. Sorry. So he comes into this. It's a great scene, and it was really fun to watch it with my wife's never seen this movie before. She'd never seen any Terminators. She watched T2 with me for the other podcast episode, and she's like, "Yeah, I enjoyed that. I'll watch that one too." And it was like, this
Which
is one of those
she liked
moments, more. This one,
really.
Yeah, spoilers, I might too. We'll talk about it at the end. Yeah. So it's so much fun to watch these like iconic moments with someone who's never seen it before. When you get the opportunity to do that, I highly recommend it. So it's like, the guy tells him like, you can wait. And he says, I'll be back. And he comes in, drives the car through, and great dummy of this guy. The guy becomes a dummy and just gets absolutely smooshed against the wall. But what I thought was really interesting watching it was, or in the video, they were talking about this. And so apparently there was a big fight between Arnold and Cameron over this because
he couldn't say aisle.
Like, no, it wasn't. It couldn't say it. He thought it was wrong. He was like, that's not what a robot would say. It's not grammatically correct. And Cameron said, well, what would you say? And he says, I will be back. And Cameron said, no. And he's like, well, that's what a robot would say. And he said the argument ended with Cameron saying, tell you what, you don't tell me how to write, and I'll continue not telling you how to act.
Shady. Shade.
I thought it was great.
Well, I also had heard
I think I might have added continue in there. It might have just been I won't tell you how to act, but either way, it's very good.
I thought on IMDb I heard that Arnold had trouble saying aisle with his accent.
That's possible, but the way he told the story was that they had a fight over it, and then because it was I don't know why Arnold would tell the story where like he lost the argument, and I guess it's just a good story, but it's like you would think Cameron would have told the story if it was so I don't know, who knows what's right.
We also don't know where Arnold got the leather jacket from. He's now wearing the iconic black leather, and I was like, wait a minute,
is the guy is he already wearing it when he walks past the dude in the hallway? There's a scene where he's like exiting the building, and I didn't think about this until literally right now, so I didn't, like, you said that and it made me wonder. But there is like a little interaction in the hallway where a guy says something to him, and I wonder if he had the leather jacket on, although he was a much smaller man. Yeah. Maybe that's where it came from, but he could also be wearing it already then. I mean, the answer is because it looks cool, but it is surprising they don't show it.
Yeah. Also, I feel like Terminator 1 Terminator vision seems kind of useless. Like, it doesn't really go through walls. It doesn't really identify people. It's just like running DOS constantly.
I'm guessing that's just a limitation of the technology of the time.
Probably.
Like, they couldn't make it look cooler.
Yeah. Also, if I'm Sarah Connor and I'm in a police station because other Sarah Connors have been murdered, and I hear a car crash and a lot of shootout, I'm going out the window.
Yeah.
I'm going out the goddamn window.
Yeah, she hides under a desk, which really just doesn't seem to offer much help here.
No.
And it like, he does massacre a whole precinct. I think like 30 people die on screen in this sequence, maybe. Including our beloved Lieutenant
Trexler. Yeah, very bummed.
Yeah. And Lance Henriksen, who does a very Lance Henriksen death. Speaking of Lance Henriksen, did I talk about how incredibly good the movie Stone Cold is?
No, is it the Steve Austin biopic?
No. It's a action movie from 1991, so it's almost certainly going to come up on this podcast again. But the lead of it is Brian Bosworth, who was a star college football player who then was kind of washed out of the NFL due to some injuries, and they like tried to make him an action star. But this movie is like just such a, it's definitely going to be on the pod. Now I'm saying it out loud. It's probably a podcast episode next year, just so I can rewatch it and you can enjoy it as well. But Lance Henriksen plays the bad guy in that, and he is like just truly off his rocker, unhinged in it. It's great.
I like that.
Anyway, Massacres the Whole Precinct. There's a great scene where I think Trexler is like, "Hey, watch that guy," referring to
it's
Kyle
Henriksen.
Reese. Is it Henriksen? Okay. And then the other cop like shuts the door, and in the half second between watch that guy escaping his lips and the door shutting, Kyle bodies him into the door, somehow knocking him unconscious as if he's like doing the Vulcan nerve pinch, and then he unlocks his handcuffs.
No, I mean, in a movie, if you get hit, you get knocked out, and knocking you out doesn't do anything bad to your brain.
Right. It's just, it's like there's not even a scuffle. It's just like he body checks him into the door and he's unconscious. So he gets to Linda and to the rescue here.
They escape. They go on. They find a little underpass. We have the beauty nurses the beast scene where she field dresses his wounds.
He gives her like, that's a great field dressing, and it's like a genuine. To my read, it seems like that's the best compliment he's ever given anyone.
It is. Also, I always thought field dressing, like when you field dress a deer, you like isn't that like skinning it?
Yeah, I think the phrase means both things.
Okay. I just always sticks in my head because there was one time in college I was walking to my best friend's apartment. It's like a 2-minute walk. It's a short little I've just cut down like this sort of, I don't want to say alley because it was like a more like grassy area, but it was like 11 o'clock at night or whatever because it was college and that's when I was going over to her house. And I remember walking and like turning my head a little bit, and there was a whole deer strung up and like opened.
Jesus!
And I was like, "Oh,
is this near Halloween?"
No,
That's really terrifying.
Yes, it was because I went to Westchester University. I wasn't in like bumblefuck like Throw a Dart, Pennsylvania, York, PA. I was like, this is like a city. This is a small town. Like in the town. I never saw anything like that again, but it was crazy.
That is really wild.
So this is where we get to
we huddle for warmth and we have time to connect. It's important that happens so that they can have sex in a little bit.
I mean, that's not really important to 80s movies because they can just do it and people will be like, all right, that looks reasonable to me.
You are going to make fun of me, but I think it's pretty earned in this movie.
I mean, it's definitely more earned than the other movies we've seen.
Yeah. I think it's like first of all, the two of them have a pretty good connection. Like the actors must have in real life had the good connection. And I don't know. I was like, yeah, I get it. Like I see it. I see what's going on here. Like it's a high stress situation, blowing off some steam. Like it all makes sense to me.
Yeah. But this is where we cut to the future to show for Kyle to like explain, what's going on. They have a clear system in place to like keep Terminators out of their like secret like mole people tunnel.
There's the dog thing introduced.
The dog thing. There's two kids
Terminators
like looking at a small old TV, and I was like, that's kind of weird. And then the camera flips to the other side, and it's just they're watching a fire that's set in the hollow TV, and I was like, that's so cool looking.
Yeah, it's a great shot. This whole bunker is really cool, and like I said, I totally forgot about this sequence, but I think it's just supposed to show how like, because I think one of the big questions,
like who broke protocol, who fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, yes, certainly a good question, but I think something that people would ask about this movie would be, so wait, why does Skynet bother making Terminators that look like people? Like that's not just like a one-off thing.
Yeah.
It takes R&D. So like, what's the point of it? And then them showing them how they use them in the future, I thought made a lot of sense.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
They're using them in the future as well, not just for these back time travel missions, which like nobody would have cared about, but it does feel like it's filling in that gap.
That's true.
I shouldn't say no one would have cared about it. People on the internet would have cared about it a lot.
Eventually. They didn't know that then, though.
Yes. Yeah. So we go to the Tiki Motel, and Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, calls her mom.
Well, also Reese is like, we need a room with a kitchen, and I was like, why?
I'm gonna make a boeuf bourguignon before I seduce you. We're gonna have a nice bottle of red.
I'm making a pot roast.
So Sarah calls what she thinks is her mom, and I love that we don't see the dead mom. We just see Arnold listening, and the house is destroyed.
No, we start at the destroyed door, and then we it's not even. We don't even start there. We start at like a fireplace, and the camera in like a slow pan, unbroken shot. We see the door with the gunshot in it, and we see the disheveled cabin, and you're just like, oh no, Mrs. Hamilton.
Yeah. Mama Connor's dead.
And then we find out Reese wanted a kitchen so that he could make pipe bombs.
Yes, plastique in particular. So I love this scene where he's like, here, put the cap on. And then he's like, oh, wait, be careful with it. Like, don't handle it like that. It'll blow up. And it's like, well, then why did you ask her to do it?
Yeah. Oh, this is where... Does the Terminator need to, like, recharge? That was why I talked about the oil earlier. Like, do they need to, like, rejuice or, like, swap their battery? Or, like, is there a battery, an energy source?
It doesn't seem like he does, but he also seems to be charging in this scene. I think there's a throwaway line in T2 explaining how their power works. It's like a mini nuclear reactor or something. It's not
T2. It's in the Mackenzie Davis one.
Okay.
That's how they explain that they're basically like their energy core is like a small nuclear reactor that runs forever.
Okay.
Because they explode it.
I thought there was a line about the power in T2, but maybe
There could have been. They just physically show it in that Mackenzie Davis one.
Gotcha. And I also like Kyle Reese is like giving her shit about handling the bombs poorly. And then when they have their little mini fight, he starts just slamming them into this duffel bag. And I'm like, all right, pal, do they need to be handled with care or not? Because it seems like you are not handling these with care. And that, of course, leads to them taking a trip to Bone Town.
Yeah, it's a good old-fashioned, weird 80s boning to the soft instrumental version of the theme song.
Yeah, it is weird that it's like
the lullaby, the baby's lullaby version.
Yes. But yeah, they it's a pretty good scene. They seem like they have a good chemistry. It's not too yucky. It's not like Halloween 3 with like obsessive breast licking. Like it's like it seems like a scene with like two adults who have some passion toward each other. It's nice to see, honestly. You don't see this anymore.
Yeah. Then they finish boning and they hear a dog bark, which makes them go, well, that's probably Terminator. Jump out the window.
Yes. Yeah. Which, turns out to be right. And then we get the video game driving level sequence of the movie.
The second one. Kyle already did one earlier when he was evading the cops. And he's like, because there's like strategically placed dumpsters on alternating sides of the alley. And he has to like zip in between them.
This one feels more video game to me just because it's like, okay, you drive, I'll do the bombs.
And if you have a 2-player game, they can each do something.
I
wonder why they've never done a like a cabinet game like that, where the two players
the
like there's a player who sits in front with a steering wheel and a player stands behind them with a little gun turret or something.
Yeah, that does seem like it would be hugely popular. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess theoretically being the driver is the less fun job of the two.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
That's a little brother position.
I think it would be much cooler with a VR helmet so that the
yes,
passenger could go 360.
I agree. That would be cool. But yeah, the driver is the little brother position. That's the Luigi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the
yeah.
Princess Peach in my case.
Yeah. So there's a huge crash. It looks incredible.
It's so good.
Incredible. Yeah. Cameron is better than everyone at this. This is his thing.
He's like,
likes
I know how to
blow shit
make
up.
real things explode and film them beautifully. Schwarzenegger gets hit by a semi-truck and dragged underneath it. And like,
yeah.
he doesn't, I don't think he looks bad enough.
No, he should have way more road rash. Like it should be
His
all
clothes
messed
should
up.
be more rippy and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just his face a little bit.
Yeah, it's like I know he's wearing a leather jacket, but there are limits.
Yes. Also,
It's like
the pipe bomb fuses
yeah.
are incredibly fast until they need
Yes.
tension.
Yes, of course.
Literally, he lights it and you like watch it. It like goes really fast down the thing, and
Yeah.
then he like burns off almost all the pipe bombs at first, and it's like, well, buddy, come, like, be a little prudent.
Mhm.
And then he throws a pipe bomb into the. Is it the exhaust pipe of this truck?
I think it's I don't think it's that is what I wrote down, but I think it's actually the part where you would connect a hose to empty the propane or whatever fuel is in the truck.
Is propane a liquid or isn't it a gas?
Propane is a gas, but it is stored in liquid form.
Oh. Huh.
Like a propane tank has liquid in it.
Oh, I didn't know that. So yeah, this is a moment where like you see him light it and you watch that fuse go real fast, then he throws it into the tailpipe thing. And then we watch it slow down and I'm like, come on.
Yeah. I love Kyle. He tells her to run and she's trying to run away from the truck, which is having trouble getting up to speed because of where it is on the sidewalk. And Kyle like jumps into a dumpster, which is like really, he does like a whoop whoop. Flip into a dumpster, which is great. It's like, yeah, I think this guy's probably spent a lot of time hiding from people in dumpsters.
So the truck explodes. We get a great composition shot. We get Arnold's face.
Yeah. They protect Linda Hamilton with some nice green screen, but it doesn't look too bad.
It's not bad. Even in HD, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
She and Kyle reunite just in time for that always amazing endoskeleton to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Only weird thing is the human teeth, but I'll let it slide.
Does not make any sense, but yeah.
Well, it makes sense from a design purpose for that. Like, if they were like, we're making
That is true.
it's got to have human skin. They're designing it with a human skin in mind.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't hate it.
Yeah. So they run into the factory, and Biehn turns on all the machines, which is pretty smart to kind of give them some cover.
I like it, but also like, why are none of the machines doing real jobs? Like, it's not like picking. None of them are like picking something up or like they're just sort of like wiggling.
Well, I do think that like a chip factory, right? Like at the end of the day, there aren't just like potatoes and loose bags everywhere. Like I think the machinery is empty.
No, but like
So I
it
think
doesn't feel like they are aligned to do a task. It just feels like they put these robot arms throughout the factory.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like this thing is supposed to be picking something up off of the conveyor belt. It just looks like it's like wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. It's not a spark factory though.
It's not a spark factory. In my head, it is.
Yeah.
And then I watch it again. I'm like, oh, right, no, it's a real robot factory.
Yeah. So they end up like getting chased onto a catwalk, and Michael Biehn puts a pipe bomb into the perfectly pipe bomb shaped hip hole of the Terminator robots, which is kind of a design flaw.
Yeah, I mean, they probably didn't anticipate a pipe bomb.
Yeah.
Also, they switch great between like they clearly created a like chest up torso of the T100, 800.
I think this is the 800.
The T800 for like a close-up shots, and then they made a small full-scale one for like stop motion stuff, and they blend so seamlessly.
Yeah, it is really, really great. Two great puppets. Linda, the pipe bomb goes off. Linda gets a huge piece of shrapnel in her calf.
So now she can't walk.
Yeah, this might actually not be a T800. Someone who knows more about Terminator may be tweeting at us.
He calls it the 101 model, but I always in our house.
I thought it was
in our
the
house
T800.
he was the T800.
I believe that it was the T800 Model 101. That is my sincere belief.
Okay, and then the liquid metal was the T1000, and then
1000.
beyond that, I don't care.
Well, there's a T-1 million in the stage show.
Oh, that's right. They have like gun arms, right?
I thought it was a big spider.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, it's a liquid metal spider thing.
Yeah. Anyway, Linda's got a big piece of shrapnel in her calf, which she pulls out. Kyle's dead, and he doesn't even get like a "I love you." He just is dead. And then I forgot about this part completely.
The horrifying torso.
Scare. Yeah, a jump scare from the horrifying torso, which is great. I mean, it just really is awesome.
She lets it chase it through the factory as she crawls away, and then she crawls. You see, it's nice because you see a moment of recognition of where she's like, "I have an idea." She's clearly at the squisher, and she notices it.
She accidentally turned the squisher on earlier while they were trying to get away. She bumped it with her elbow.
But it's not, it's not like a big like YouTube thumbnail reaction. But you can see in her face there's a recognition, and she's like, "I'm gonna crawl through here and squish it," and she squishes it. But I don't get why she doesn't get electrocuted. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, well, first of all, it shouldn't. The electric burst is dumb and shouldn't be part of this. That's
well, it's 1985, baby. That's all of our understanding about technology.
I know, but just like have her crush the robot, it's fine. Like we don't need this. But it is awesome that she gets the "you're terminated, fucker" and squishes it. It's delightful. So we get that's Chekhov's hydraulic press, and then moments later, actually, the reason why we get the bunker scene is so we can see that Kyle has this picture that we're about to see taken,
right?
And that that he's been like in love with Linda for a long time, because Kyle definitely got handed this picture so that he would fall in love with this woman.
Mm-hmm.
Driving down the road, clearly in Mexico, getting some gas and doing a monologue about the future. And John, she's clearly pregnant at this point, and a little boy takes her picture, a Polaroid of her, and she buys the Polaroid, and it's like, oh, there's the picture that Kyle Reese has in the future that makes him fall in love with this woman. And it's a little bit much that she says something like, "In the few hours we had together, we loved a lifetime."
I'm like, okay,
it's a bit too much. But it's fine if she liked Kyle Reese, because I liked Kyle Reese and I only got to know him for a few hours. So I think maybe she's just talking about the audience. That is it. That's the movie. What are your final Terminator thoughts?
It's a fun movie. I do think I like the second one more because I think I like that Linda Hamilton more.
Yeah. Cameron talked about that a lot, that she kind of became like a feminist icon in the second movie, but the first movie, like without the first movie, that wouldn't feel right, like wouldn't feel earned. So I think they do work together in concert.
Yeah, I mean, I guess theoretically you could just jump in with her being that person, because then it would sort of track that she trained a like soldier kid.
Yes.
But
yeah, I mean, you could get there. It would be
but also now you get into the paradox of, did she become a militant, soldier child parent because she learned that that's what she needed to do, or was she always going to do that? You know what I mean?
I do understand what you're saying, but I think the answer to your question is yes, she did it because she learned she had to.
Yeah. But I mean, then there's the paradox. Like, so did they create... your brain hurts.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
I think this is the better movie. I think I prefer T2. That's how I come down it.
Okay, I can see that. I think
T2 is a little shaggier. I think Edward Furlong is a little bit much at times, and it's very
well. That's all children, I find.
But in particular, that performance is like a little aggressively kid power 1990s, Nickelodeon.
That's true.
I love that movie. It was, for a long time of my life, I would have told you it was my favorite movie. I think this is the better of the two, just in terms of like filmmaking and like story and stuff. I like them both very much. I think.
I think the second story is just as strong.
Okay.
I do. It's a little weird that they chose to send back a T-800, knowing Linda Hamilton would have like a very triggering PTSD reaction to it.
Yeah.
But I think the second story is just as strong as the first.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost identical, so it's almost exactly the same movie again. So your point is valid, but I don't know. I like the Michael Biehn performance a lot. I think there's a lot to like in this movie. I mean, I think there's a lot to like in T2. I think they're both very good. T2 obviously is like a watershed special effects movie. This one obviously a big special effects movie too. But I do think this one is just like slightly the better movie. Although I think my personal favorite remains T2. But I much like spoiler alert for a conversation we'll be having over the course of next year, I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is probably the best Indiana Jones movie, but it's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Okay. That's fair.
That's all I'm saying. But yeah, this is wonderful. You should seek it out if you've never seen it before. I hope that we didn't ruin your enjoyment of it. But this is a great, great, great 80s action movie. One of the all-time best action movies, period. Wonderful all around. And I personally am excited for Avatar 2 because I saw the first one and I'm excited to see his big dumb special effects spectacle. Although, boy, it's going to be hard to pay full movie price.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, we will be back in 2 weeks. We talked a little bit about the DeVito Schwarzenegger. We haven't locked this in yet. We could make it Schwartz in November would have made more sense, but Schwartz in December, and do twins instead. No? Okay.
I don't like Schwartz. Whatever you were trying to make happen, I didn't. I'm not following you on that journey, but I do like twins.
We'll probably get to twins next year when it has an anniversary, but we are doing another Danny DeVito movie. Danny DeVito and Billy Crystal together in Throw Momma from the Train, which turns 35 this year. So
also starring Momma Fratelli.
Momma Fratelli, that's right. I just forgot her name, but very Annie.
I think so. I don't know the last name, but I think Annie.
Damn. I thought that was going to help us get there. Well, we'll have all that information for you in 2 weeks when we talk about Throw Momma from the Train. Don't forget to visit us on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter. It's at Dissect the 80s. We would love to hear from you on either of those. Always like talking to our listeners. Please rate and review the show if you haven't done that yet. And importantly, there's going to be a full-length episode on Lethal Weapon on the Patreon coming up very shortly, plus a secret Christmas commentary. So ton of extra content coming your way there. Patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. You get both of those at the $5 tier. You get just the Christmas commentary if you sign up at the $2 tier as well. So check that out. Patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. Get yourself a nice Christmas present for you. A bunch of extra content from your favorite podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time,
I'll be back.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.